Eastern Front, summer 1943. A Soviet infantryman presses his ear to the ground. At first, he thinks it's artillery in the distance. Then he realizes it's rhythmic. The earth isn't shaking from explosions, it's shaking from footsteps. Across the horizon, something rises above the smoke and burning wheat fields. Not a tank, not even a bunker. A building. Steel walls, gun turrets like naval towers, tracks the size of houses crushing trees flat beneath them. This is no ordinary armored vehicle. This is the Landkreuzer P-1000 Ratte, a 1,000-ton land battleship that was never built but almost was. And if it had rolled onto the battlefield, would it have been a war-winning superweapon or the biggest target in military history? By 1942, Germany was desperate. The invasion of the Soviet Union had stalled, Stalingrad was collapsing, Allied bombers were hammering German industry, and Adolf Hitler had a solution: bigger weapons. Wunderwaffe, wonder weapons. Enter engineer Edward Grote, who pitched an idea so massive it barely sounded real. A 1,000-ton tank. Not just heavily armored, monumental. Taller than a 3-story building. Armed not with standard tank guns, but naval cannons, 280mm guns stripped from battleships. Weapons designed to punch through cruisers at sea, now aimed at cities and tank formations. Its armor? Up to 360mm thick in places. Most anti-tank weapons in 1943 would bounce off it like stones. Hitler loved it, but not everyone did. Armaments Minister Albert Speer understood the cost. The steel alone could produce dozens of conventional tanks. And General Heinz Guderian, inspector of tank troops, reportedly dismissed these super-heavy projects as fantasies, distractions from practical warfare. Still, the Ratte was seriously considered. On paper, it looked unstoppable. On land, it would have been something else entirely. Imagine building it. The steel required could have produced roughly 50 Tiger tanks. 50. Each one mobile, deadly, and proven in combat. Instead, all that metal goes into a single machine. Now imagine moving it. Every road it touches cracks. Every bridge collapses under its weight. It cannot use normal infrastructure. So engineers propose something almost absurd: snorkels. Yes, this 1,000-ton land battleship would drive along riverbeds submerged, using massive snorkel towers to breathe while crossing water. It would gouge the earth beneath it. Rail lines would buckle. Fuel trucks would trail behind it like attendants serving a king. And fuel. Germany was already running dry by 1943. Synthetic fuel plants were bombed constantly. The Ratte would drink fuel at a rate that could drain reserves needed for entire armored divisions. It wasn't just a tank. It was a burden, a king that starved its own peasants. And yet, let's drop it into the battlefield anyway. July 1943, the Battle of Kursk, the largest tank battle in history. Thousands of armored vehicles collide across open steppe. Now imagine something new appearing on that battlefield. The Ratte crests a hill. Its naval guns rotate. A thunderclap. The shell travels miles before impact. A Soviet defensive position disappears in an eruption of earth and fire. T-34s advance. They fire. Their 76mm rounds slam into 360mm armor. They shatter. Soviet crews stare in disbelief as their shots ricochet harmlessly away. For a moment, it looks invincible. The Ratte advances slowly, crushing trenches and barbed wire. Infantry scatter. Anti-tank guns are obliterated before they can reposition. This is shock warfare at its most terrifying. But then, reality intrudes. The Ratte moves at a crawl. Its turning radius is enormous. Mines cripple its tracks. Engineers scramble to repair damage under fire. Fuel levels drop. Supply trucks struggle through artillery bombardment just to keep it moving. Then, the engines begin to strain. A machine this heavy does not sprint. It lumbers. And when it stops, it cannot hide. A radio crackles in a Soviet command post. Coordinates are relayed. Minutes later, the sky changes. The distant hum of engines grows louder. IL-2 Sturmovix, dive bombers. The Ratte's anti-aircraft guns open fire, but they cannot track everything. Bombs fall. One hits near the rear deck, another tears into exposed ventilation. The ground shakes again, but this time not from the Ratte. Its engines sputter. Fuel is nearly gone. The once unstoppable land battleship becomes a steel island in a sea of enemies. More bombs, more smoke. The engines die, and now it is nothing but a 1,000-ton target. By nightfall, it burns, a mountain of twisted metal on the Russian steppe. If the Ratte had been built, it would not have turned the tide at Kursk. It would have consumed resources Germany couldn't afford to lose. The steel, the fuel, the manpower, all poured into one colossal machine. Meanwhile, the Allies and Soviets focused on something less glamorous: mass production, mobility, logistics. Germany actually built a smaller cousin, the Panzer VIII Maus. It weighed nearly 190 tons. Even that proved nearly unusable. Too heavy for bridges, too slow for maneuver warfare, more spectacle than solution. The Ratte was simply the extreme end of the same flawed thinking. Bigger must be better. Heavier must be stronger. But war is not won by spectacle. It's won by supply lines, by fuel reserves, by factories that can replace losses faster than the enemy destroys them. The Ratte would not have saved Germany. It might have weakened it faster. The Ratte represents something deeper than a cancelled tank project. It represents the ultimate flaw of the Third Reich's military thinking in its later years. The belief that a single monstrous weapon could compensate for strategic failure, that size equals dominance, that awe equals victory. But on a modern battlefield, mobility beats mass, logistics beats spectacle, and 1,000 tons of steel cannot move without fuel, bridges, and air cover. In the end, the Ratte would not have been a war-winning superweapon. It would have been the biggest target in history, a burning monument to hubris. So here's the question. Which other Nazi wonder weapon do you think was a complete waste of steel? Let me know in the comments, because sometimes the most dangerous weapons aren't the ones that get built. They're the ones that distract you from reality.